Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Wherever you call home, we are there. In favorite places, large spaces, for many homes, we have coverage that fits the way you live. And with our home systems protection, you can cover major home appliances and more. We cover more type of homes than ever. Get the coverage you and your family deserves. For a free no obligation quote, visit us online or simply give us a call.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest, a UISD current trustee, Dianely Martinez, and we're going to talk about the issues that are going on with UISD now. The closures of schools, the apparent closures, the non-closures, we're going to close, all that, the issues that are going on. And I want to, and we're going to hear from a current trustee on what the issues are and her concerns. How are we doing today? I hope you're doing okay.
We're doing good, thanks. Yes, thanks. Losing a little bit of sleep, but all is good.
Why is that?
Well, it's just a very heavy weighted decision that is upon us. As I do want to thank you for giving me the opportunity once again to be on your platform, which I think is very important because people do become educated on topics that are important to our community. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity. Again, I am one of the newest board members on the board. I was elected November of 2024. So it's been very interesting, a lot of fun seeing how the board operates now as a board member. And so during my tenure, right, in this year, I've been that board member. I've stood strong to my promise, which is to ask for transparency and to continue to question. I was a parent who would attend board meetings and ask the board, what is going on? There's a lot of wasteful spending. And now that I'm on the board, now I continue to do so with my position. And it's just very unfortunate that now, fast forward to now, we're facing the decision of school closures. Now, it can be called school consolidations, but that's just, in my opinion, it's just a pretty word to not say closure.
Okay. Effort, number one, again, congratulations for you sitting up on the board. I know that you were very vociferous and opinionated about issues that happened before, and as a parent as well, that I had my kids go through there, and I was also a product of UISD, right? But what occurs is a lot of things have changed, and it seems now that people are calling. I get a lot of calls. I got a call from a former trustee, and of course you on the same day of this issue that is going on. And I've talked to others, and they're very concerned about what happened to the money. How come we don't have this? And there's all kinds of issues going on. Nobody knows exactly what it is. If you ask the board members, they're kind of like, well, this is what needs to be done. What led to this, in your opinion?
In my opinion, what led to it was mismanagement of funds. Again, you go back to the same thing. The federal government and the state legislature, right? They give funds to school districts all across the state of Texas. And so if you see the history of UISD, if you see the board meetings, there was, I mean, zero to really like very minimal questioning as to monthly disbursements that the district was handling, and so a lot of positions that were created, salaries, right? So all of that starts carrying on year after year. Now we know this year that approximately 86% of UISD's budget is payroll. So what is that telling you? That's telling you that if, you know, the administrations in the past and boards in the past saw that we were not meeting the enrollment of kids, but still kept on hiring, still kept on, um, you know, creating positions with very high salaries. Now, fast forward to now this is why we're in this predicament, right? One. Two, the wasteful spending. We just had, you know, the convocation, which cost thousands of dollars last year. And I was just newly on the board, but you know, if you knew that you were in a deficit, in a $44 million deficit last year, then why even have a convocation? Okay, the argument is that, well, that promotes employee engagement, but I'm very conservative in the way I think, in the way I spend, and so every dollar counts. And I think that throughout the years, my opinion, there's been a sense of, you know, well, this is the district's money, it's the district's money, but in reality, no, like this is taxpayer money that was just not spent well. Then you go back into the construction of the schools. Okay, that's another issue. What was sold back in the day, I don't know why it was. I can't say, I was not on the board at that time. But what I can tell you from what I've learned now is that you can manipulate a budget. You can, absolutely, 100%. You can say, you know, there is a trend of growth. And if you go back to the bond, it was proposed, you know, and sold to the community that at one time we were going to have about 47,000 students in the district. So what happens? People believe it. The bond passed. Now you see an abundance of schools. But the reality of it was that the enrollment was never there. And then COVID happens and the enrollment drops. But then it picks up a little bit, maybe like 1,000 students. But then it dips down again. And there was never no proactive measure to say, hey, wait a minute, we're approving our budgets with way too much enrollment. Until this last year, that was my first time ever approving a budget. I was the only board member who voted no because I studied the trends of actual enrollments in the previous years and we were under. So why approve a budget that is going to have you on the red because you're not going to have kids coming in? So I think that's one of the major red flags and major factors as to why we are in the situation that we are now.
You know, you mentioned a lot, and what I'm getting out of it is basically that they manipulated the numbers to produce a bond, to produce schools for whatever reason, whether being nefarious or otherwise. There's misappropriation of funds, I believe that's what you're trying to say, or mismanagement of funds, if you want to put it that way. Um, they knew about the numbers of the kids and they manipulated those numbers. You see, UISD is not trusted by the community, period, and it
Mhm.
has been trusted for a very long time. This didn't happen just in the last year that you went in.
No.
This has been going on for many years,
Mhm.
and we've gotten some people inside that I believe are good people on the board, but I believe that they also were manipulated by the administration coming up with false numbers, as you're basically saying they were manipulated numbers. And
Mhm.
right, that's what that
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, you can. It's just like I'm telling you, in this last year, they gave us an adopted budget of, I don't have the number I want to say it was maybe like 41,000, but the reality of it is that we only had 39. So why even approve a budget with 41,000 if those students were not going to come in? Now, the argument is that, they always would over project in case the students did come in, and they wouldn't have to be looking for funds to hire teachers or to hire positions. But again, you go back to the same thing. You cannot do that. You can't, right? Because again, this is money. It's taxpayer money that you are handling. And if you don't handle it well, what happens? And now you're in the red. Now, I want to make it clear that when I say that mismanagement of funds, I'm not saying that anybody is, doing anything wrong, corruption. No, what I'm saying is that the money that was given to us by the state and federal government was not handled well. It was not, right? Because again, you go back, just because the state and the federal government give you a certain amount of money, you're not going to go and spend it all. You're going to try to have some in the reserves, right?
Correct. But and neither am I saying there's any nefarious action. But the thing when we're talking about mismanagement is the manipulation of numbers. And you said it that you had 39 and they said 41 or what have you, whatever it was that what you mentioned. And if that's been a trend and nobody's caught it yet, then they also lied to the citizens on approval of the bond, which is another different issue. And the problem happens with UISDs is right now they have to close schools. People are calling me and telling me they're going to be busing people from one neighborhood to the other neighborhood. Okay, it's still the same district. We bus people from the Colonias to United High School. We bus people from El Sinal all the way down. We bus people from Rio Bravo to certain high schools. That occurs in any school district. Busing. That's why we have a bus transportation system. If the closures are going to save taxpayer money, close them. If we have to get rid of the jobs, because I saw a list, and there's like assistants to the assistant of the assistant secretary to the assistant secretary of the real secretary, and you're like, what? How come you have 4 or 5 people underneath being assistants? And I'm being facetious, but that's basically what it reads. You have jobs that were whatever reason, cronyism. I don't know if it's nepotism, but you have a lot of this favoritism of positions as you see throughout. But it is not something that just happened last year. This is something that's been going on since I was in school, in '86. And people say, so and so this, so and so that. The whole families are secretaries. The whole people are counselors, and you're like, how come we need so many counselors? How come we need so many? You know what I'm saying? There's an issue there.
Yeah.
That's mismanagement of funds or whatever, and let's just build more positions because guess what? They helped us in an election. Well, guess what? Their family helped us get votes for this individual. Oh, yeah, let's do that. That's what it looks like because that is the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
The pattern that we have in Laredo. People get involved with elections because they have that kid that couldn't get a job, that needs a job, and all of a sudden now he's the assistant to the assistant director. So, and unfortunately, you and I smile about that, but it happens. Right now, look at what we have in our elections. Right now, everybody's holding signs because they want a job, and it occurs.
Mm-hmm.
UISD a tremendous school district. You and I have talked about it in the past. It's a borderline school to prison pipeline district. I don't see any changes on that. If we have to protect our kids, I feel sorry for our children that are there. There's a lot of reasonings that other people are coming out and saying this is the reason why we're losing kids. One, the immigration issue right now that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of kids that come in from Mexico and they go to school in UISD. Even though we don't, when you talk to the administration, they kind of, but it's true. It happens. You have a lot of import export companies that have work visas, and those kids come over to school here. A lot of those work visas weren't reissued again. So you have a large quantity of kids that are no longer coming here. And you have a lot of import export businesses, and we went from number 1 to number 3. Two numbers dropped. So that means that businesses are moving to San Antonio because of the issues of free trade, and they're moving elsewhere because of Laredo. We're losing that. So we lost that position. We're no longer number 1. Okay, we're number 3.
Yes.
And people don't talk about that. We have a lot of people that are homeschooling their kids, and great. I understand why they should, and people should, because if we have a school to prison pipeline district, I advise everybody, be careful. Be careful.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. Now, here comes the issue. What's going to happen? Let's say they close, I don't know how many schools, 3, 5, 10. I don't know how many schools they're closing.
So right now the list went down from 5 to 2 schools. One of them being Matias de Llano Elementary, which is in District 7, the district that I represent, and the other school being Amparo Gutierrez, which is I want to say it's under District 3, Miss Alisa Oliveros. It's under her district.
What's going to happen to those students? Where are they going to be bused to? Where are they going?
What was proposed to us, or what was presented, was about 19 students from Matias de Llano would be to Colonel, some would go to Trotman, then some to Borchers, and some to Malakoff. But the thing with that is that you go back to the same thing, right? The closure of schools. Is this going to be a cost-effective saving measure? Because that's the reason why the district is looking into the consolidation of campuses, because we want to save money. There's no money. Obviously, our payroll is taking a big chunk of our budget. So we need to cut somewhere, right? So the decision has been proposed to now just down to 2. But is it really cost effective in the sense that, okay, like you said, let's close them. I've even said that to let's close them. But is it going to make an impact in our budget? The reality of it is that it's not. It's not, because in the presentation that was just presented to us, it stated that with the consolidation of those 2 schools, we would only incur savings of 4.5 million. So there you're telling me that with the closure of 1 school, I'm only going to incur a saving of about 2 years. In a 5-year projection, Matias de Llano will incur a saving of around 12 million. But when comparing it to payroll, right now the reality of it, and I'm waiting to see, is how many employees from Matias de Llano are going to retire, right? Because if we close down the school and nobody retires, then that payroll, you're just moving it somewhere else. So why do the disservice to the students? Because the students are the ones who are going to be impacted. Now, the timing, in my opinion, horrible. Why? Because this semester, everybody knows spring semester is a time where principals, teachers, and students are getting ready to take the STAR. Okay. Now you have 2nd graders, 3rd graders crying, talking about what's going to happen to my school, losing focus on what really matters, which is education, right? So that's one of the things that I'm interested in seeing. What is the true payroll saving and what is that 2.5? Now, what's going to happen with that school? We don't know if it closes. We don't know, which is another thing that's, I feel like this plan is very rushed, and I've said it since day one. Very, very rushed. If you look at the research, you'll see that across the nation, when consolidating schools, that should be the last resort. Why? Because that only makes about 4%, 5% of the budget. If so, what needed to have been done from 2 years ago was a right sizing of staff. But yet you said it, we could, the district continued to hire for whatever reason, right? For whatever XYZ reason, they over projected. I don't know because I was not on the board at that time, but I can only speak to now from when I'm there, and I can tell you that now moving forward, the superintendent has said that now the budget they are going to look at it with an under enrollment of students, which I'm like, that should have been done. It's a little too late, but thinking positive.
In other words, they lied. They lied to the people that over this had. They lied to everybody. The ones that suffer here is called the taxpayer.
The
That's
taxpayers, yeah.
they're the ones that suffered. Because little kids can go to another school and become friends and make better friends than the ones they left behind. Why? I can tell you that because I moved all over the country with my father, all over the place. And guess what? Sometimes you have to move, and that's just part of life. You're a little kid, but the taxpayers, the lying to the taxpayers. And everything else that goes on, why don't you all just call the state and say, we need the state's help, come over and take care of this?
I actually did meet, I actually did meet with our, I'm sorry, I actually did meet with our state representative, Richard Raymond. I had coffee with him, very open-minded man. I'm very appreciative for that conversation, because that was one of my things. If you look at the state has an agency that comes and does a budget review. They did it years ago when Ms. Pat Campos was on the board, Judd Gulpin was on the board, and they did a review on the transportation department. And so with that budget committee, what they do is they come in and they see, okay, this is where you need to cut, this is what you need to do. But of course, that would take approval of the board, right? Now, yes, having the state take over, honestly, to me, as a taxpayer, go for it. As a taxpayer, go for it. I'm all for it. But as a board member and as a parent, I'm a little hesitant only because once the state comes and takes over, that's it. The parents lose really control of what's going on. The board, you have no more board. Does that need to happen? Maybe, right? Maybe it does.
And I tell you one thing: if it's part of the education department of Texas, the state needs to take over. The state needs to take over because there's a lot of issues with school boards. School boards sometimes we need a term limit in school boards. I hate to say that, but we need term limit, and that's one term limit, not two. You're in there one. If you can't find the schools in your district, and you need another term to find the other schools in your district, then you're not doing anything. You need one term. We need to actually downsize departments and maybe get actual professionals to go in there and take care. One's our police department. It's in a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. I grade that police department of UISD as a 0.5. Doesn't even make one. It's a bad police department. It's God forbid that something happens. God forbid. Okay, I mean we got F troop there, and I've seen them at work. I've seen what they do. I've seen the violations of the 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment towards our kids. It's scary. So what we need to understand is where are we going to downsize? Maybe we have to. It doesn't say they have to be police departments to take care of our school. It just says armed security. Maybe we can contract with a security company to take care of the schools and remove the police department completely from it. Okay, we don't need it. And look what happened when that shooter or apparent shooter over there in Alexander. Everybody was over there, and you had stuff on Facebook that kids, sons and daughters of apparent elected officials were removed by the police department, and the other ones left there. Even whether it was speculation, allegations, or what have you, those stories are out there on social media, whether
Mhm.
they're not true. So it puts a question mark. Are they doing the right job? And let the professionals, the Laredo Police Department, take care in case a situation like that occurs. God forbid.
God
Okay.
forbid. Yeah. Mhm.
We
Yeah.
need, we need security. Our police officers should not be going in there because some kid has been bullied year round, physically, whatever, and turns around and defends himself. Now he's going to juvenile. That's a self-defense situation. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of issues, and start cutting them down. Enough of, you hold signs for me and get me votes, and
Mhm.
start doing what's right. And that's why I say to you as a board member, maybe the state, maybe Richard Raymond, maybe others should start coming in and saying, you know what, the state needs to come in and take care of UISD. It
Mhm.
they lied to the public, as I'm hearing from you, about the manipulation of numbers, especially for a bond that they for we're going to have so many, yeah, when they and every year they have less. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad. That's
And I
bad.
and that's why I'm also very opposed to this, because we hear presentations from Zonda, which is a demographer. And even before I came on the board, I was at a board meeting where Zonda came to present, and they were presenting an over projection of students, and it was off. Right. But then now we're basing ourselves off of, again, a demographer that's telling us that there's really, because of the birth trends, we're not really getting the enrollment. But I'm like, okay, but 2 years ago we were listening to, it's just, that's what I'm having a little bit of difficulty trying to comprehend. But if you go based on what the demographer stated in this last presentation, you see, for example, Matias de Llano has a very steady enrollment. It never really declines drastically as to other schools. Same with Amparo Gutierrez, right? And so what you said about right sizing about the police department, I have honestly, now that I'm on the board, I will have to say that I have seen the hard work that they do. Of course, there needs to be an evaluation of every department, the police department, communications department, the CNI. There are so many departments that we have in the district. And like you said, we need to start basing ourselves and operating on an enrollment that we had of 39,000, which is, I appreciate. I received a phone call from a community member who said, we need to go back into look into how much staff did we have when we were at 39,000. Right? That's the staff that we need to go back to. And it's, again, like you said, right sizing. I do know that now, hopefully, we'll have to see how many people retire this year. And now we have to really look into, as a board, see, okay, out of those, 400, because approximately last year about 400 retired, how many of those positions do we not need to bring back? Because we've seen that people retire, and then what happens? They bring back, and that's not cost effective. Which is, again, why I'm super against this school closure. I think that right now, I've been told from several people, stop thinking with your heart. And I'm like, I'm not thinking with my heart at all. I'm thinking strategically. Strategically, is this the best move or the best decision that we can make? And based on the information that I've been given, no, because again, if we're looking into payroll being 86% of our budget, and let's say nobody really retires from Matias and nobody retires from Amparo Gutierrez, then we still have a problem, right? We're only going to be Matias de Llano. Their electricity bill is about $3,000 a month. That's not really a lot. You know what I mean? Compared to what we're paying in salaries. And so I think that, again, like, it's, do
How
I
many how
think,
many how many assistant to the assistant secretaries is there in Mateo de Llano?
there's not, you only there, since it is a very, it's a it's a small school, okay? You do not have compared to like at other schools where you do have more staff. You don't because it is a small, it's considered a small school. But if you go back to again, I mean, communications department, for example, the communications department just last year, they hired one more communications department. And if you start comparing our communications department to other departments across the state of Texas with our enrollment, their communications department is a lot smaller than ours. So that's why I'm saying we need to really start looking if we're going to right size in one department, we need to look at everything across the board and start operating with that 39,000 of students that we have.
So you mentioned an organization that came in here, Sanda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Explain who's Sanda for our viewers, and explain exactly what they do and what's their role here. Are they paid by the district to come up with this, or do they do
Yes.
it because of a grant, or what's going on?
No, so Zonda is contracted. They're a consulting agency. They're demographers, and school districts across the state of Texas do use them. They are a very reputable organization. They are. I really do enjoy all of their presentations. Very informative. But yes, the district does contract them out. Now, again, you go back to the same thing. The district can tell, Zonda, this is what we want in our presentation. Can you please look for it? And they provide, right? So again, if you go based on the 10-year forecast projection of Sonda, Matias de Llano really stays into a steady decline, right? Steady decline. That's not taken into consideration all of the new developments that you have by Variety Meats on Shiloh. Then you have all of the development that is happening in the San Isidro area. Then you have the development in the Colonel Santos Winfield area. Okay. So, like I've said, okay, let's wipe out Matias de Llano. Let's wipe it out, right? Let's wipe it out. What's going to happen? Okay. Let's say now the students who now are living in that Shiloh area, now they're going to be going to, let's say, Trotman. Okay, now they're going to be binded to Trotman. But then you also have the Antlers Crossing, that new subdivision. Where are those kids? Where are those kids going to go? Some to Trotman, some to Malakoff, right? Malakoff is already at about 600 students. Now, mind you, Malakoff, if Matias is closed, they will receive another influx of students. So what happens? The populations of the other schools start increasing, which then what happens in turn? Then you go back into the academic performance of the students, right? Which is going to decline because now you're going to have much larger classrooms, okay? And teachers are now going to have more students. They're not going to be able to have the more one-on-one that they're able to have compared to having smaller sized classrooms, which again, you go back to we're in it for the children, right? Think about that. United is for the children. But then now we're wanting to wipe out a school, which in turn will make the surrounding neighborhood schools with even larger classrooms. And how is that being in it for the students? Do you know what I'm trying to say? The academic performance is going to decrease. It's going to decrease. It is. Research-based studies show that when you consolidate schools, elementary schools, okay, specifically elementary schools, there is a loss in attendance because they're smaller children that have to now be accustomed to a new setting. And yes, children are resilient. I was one who moved from a lot of schools too, right? A lot. I'm a product of public education. Do I think that maybe I would have thrived differently if I wouldn't have had that? Maybe, right? I won't know. But research does state that the consequences are far more greater when consolidating schools than the impact, right, that it's going to make. And I think right now what we're looking at is we're just looking at a number. Like we're just looking at numbers. And I've told the superintendent in a conversation that I had with him, what if I'm tired of hearing the song of every school district in the state of Texas is doing it? You know, we're not the only one. But what if we become that one school district that changes the dynamic, right? Think out of the box. How can we, one, retain our students? Because there is competition of the homeschooling, of the charter schools, like you said, we are losing students to that. So, how can we retain our students? One, and how can we improve now and attract students to come to the district? We have administrators who are making over $160,000. I mean, they
What I'm
have
saying.
to
And,
they have to
you know,
start thinking out of the box. Like it's like tunnel vision. That's it. We're gonna close the schools. But hey, show
well,
me a strategic.
but we're gonna keep those directors and administrators that get paid this much. Really? How about fire about 10 of them and keep that school open? I mean,
Yes.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We don't need that many. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm serious. I mean, it's a never ending story. That's
It's
why.
never ending. Yes, never ending. And
One,
so, uh,
number one, that I say this as a constituent, as a taxpayer. Number one, it's not if they close the schools and it's not lowering our taxes. Eh. If they're going to close the schools and lower our taxes, okay. If they're going to try to save the schools from closing because they're going to remove all the assistant directors and administrators and all those high paying jobs that really they don't, and half of those people, and I'm going to be very facetious, and maybe they might say I'm an asshole, but half of those people couldn't think out of a chicken McNugget box except when they're dipping in the sauce because that's all they do. You know what I'm saying? And it's hilarious when you see them. They're like, "Oh, well, you have to go to that one over there." Well, I just can't, and they send me to you.
yeah.
And oh, you have to go to that other one, but then they send me back to you.
Yeah,
And
yes.
you're
And
like,
that's happened to me too. And that's happened to me too, where, and so that's why it's very I am, very passionate about this. I've always been very passionate about public education, and now more so that our district is facing that because, I'm very about equity. So now we need to also be asking ourselves,
here's a question.
uh-huh.
Excuse me for interrupting. Here's a question. Let's say the schools are closed. What's going to happen to those buildings?
Exactly. We don't know
Are
yet.
we going to sell them at fair market value to some other for a charter school that's going to come in, which should happen, or is it just going to be wasted money that we taxpayers threw because people manipulated numbers of a projection that didn't even exist? See,
Yeah.
that's what's happening now. Here's what's going to happen. A year from now or 2 years from now, they're going to say, "Oh, we need a bond because we need to build a couple of more schools out there, or we need to help out those contractors that build schools, and we need to build 10 more schools because we're growing in populace." We're going to oppose it. Why? Because you've already told us openly that they manipulated the numbers. Now they're going to manipulate them again. There's no trust. You see,
Yeah, there's no trust. I mean, and
there's no trust.
I'm not again, that's just my personal opinion, right? For whatever reason that they projected an enrollment back in the day, I don't know. Like that's just my personal opinion, right? My perspective, but do I feel like the community was lied to? Yes, the community was lied to, and that's just my perspective, right? My opinion. I have my right. My
Of what you're telling me, that's what I'm getting at. They lied to
Yes.
us dramatically, and they've done it before in the past. And they come out with their photo ops. Look at me.
Well,
Look
because if you think
at
about it,
Valentine's Day. Look at Valentine's Day. You see, I love the kids. Look at Valentine's Day. Look at St. Patrick's Day. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Look at me here with the principals. I love their principals. Yeah, please, enough enough
Yes.
of the
Of
gaslighting.
the photo ops, and that, and if I'm saying, and if it's coming off as like manipulation of numbers, it's because I've been having a hard time trying to understand, like, how did we get here, like what got us here, right? So I've been looking at old board meetings since 2017. I've been studying the issue of the bond, and so yes, there was an over projection of students. So what happens? Clark Elementary gets rebuilt. So now what happens? Clark Elementary, there was no growth there, really. So now what's happening to Amparo? Amparo's going to have to close because we can't close Clark because Clark just was rebuilt on a bond. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So you look into that. Then you look into, for example, Cuellar Elementary. That was also on the list for consolidation. It's not anymore. But Cuellar Elementary, they built Roberto Santos Elementary right on the loop. Okay. Well, what happened? A lot of the students that belong to Cuellar Elementary are now going to Roberto Santos. If Roberto Santos Elementary wouldn't have been built, then guess what? Cuellar Elementary would have had more children than what they have now. And even you look into Borchers,
Well,
also.
were those children from Cuellar bused somewhere else?
Yes, there, from my understanding is that there's a subdivision of students that belonged to Cuellar and are now going to Roberto Santos Elementary.
So that stuff about busing, that's an issue that's not even there because we're busing people just to fulfill a new school.
Capacity, exactly. And then you go back into specifically District 7, right, which is the where I represent. You have Colonel Santos, and then you have Matias de Llano, which Matias de Llano is the older campus. You have Matias de Llano, and then you have Malakoff in the San Isidro area, right, the older part of the San Isidro. And then you have Borchers. Like what? And they were all built, in 2005. I think I read Colonel Santos was built in 2005, and so was Borchers, one of them, Borchers or Malakoff. And I'm like, who in their right mind would approve two schools being built at very close proximity? Who? The board at that time. And nobody questioned, like nobody, and that's what frustrates me is that nobody thought years down the road, something can happen and we have too many clothes. And you go to Mines Road. Okay, Mines Road's another one. You have Finley and Kazin, which are about a block away from each other. Kazin has an enrollment of 300 students. Okay, 300, less than three, a little bit above 300, but they're less than Matias de Llano.
Here's a question. Let's take K's in there. You said 300 students. What is the salary that we spend on just Kaysen?
On just Kazin, I don't have the breakdown.
What
don't.
down that is spent just on Kaysen with everything that is in there? Or are they following the same trends of having the assistants to the assistants and all that stuff, or no?
That's something that I'd have to look into. I actually need to request, I was thinking this morning, I need to request a detailed analysis because I want to see again, in comparison to other schools, because I want to make sure, and like I've said, if Matias de Llano is going to save the district money, then go for it. I'll support it 100%. But show me that Matias de Llano is going to save the most money compared to other schools. Because I know from the numbers that I'm running is that it's not. It's not.
Here's something else. To remove that cancer, you need an extreme surgery, and the only surgery capable of doing that right now is if you all vote in to have the state come in and take care of business, because for many years we have found out that business there was being taken care of, and now we're finding out how they were taking care of that business. So in other words, the state needs to come in. That's my opinion. That's my humble opinion, and nothing against you or nothing against the board, because there's some good people in there. I think the board itself was manipulated by the administration and other people that were in there, and they were like, "Oh well, yeah, if it's works, yeah, let's go for it." And sometimes you get good people inside the board, and you have administrators that have other dealings. And the problem is that sometimes you have to. You see, Laredo's this. Laredo is a town that everybody knows each other, and sometimes you become friends of a business in your business, and sometimes you have to let people go. You have to fire individuals for a business to move forward. Sometimes you have to fire, and in Laredo they don't fire. What they do is they play musical chairs. Okay, you were incompetent over here. Now you're going to become the assistant to the assistant to the assistant to the assistant secretary over here, and you're going to do better. So then all of a sudden, guess what? Oh, you screwed up over here. Now we're going to make you the counselor to that one over there because over there, the one over there screwed up. So we're going to move it to your previous position. That's what happens here, and that type of musical chairs is you see it not only in UISD, you see it in LISD as well. You see it all over the place. You see it in the city. That's a culture that has grown here in Laredo for the longest time.
Yeah, and I laugh because I laugh because I have had this conversation with the superintendent, that there's been decisions that have been made, and I'm very like, okay, so I mean, that in the real world, like they would have fired this person, right? Like we need to start having this mentality of, like obviously if they're not good for education, then fire them, right? But for whatever XYZ reason, I don't know. Like it's something that, I cannot give a directive to the superintendent. Like I can't. I can only, recommendation, talk to him, like, where's your head at? Why are you thinking of doing this? Will I support it or not? Right. But yes, I mean, there's been times where I've told him like that, we have to stop with that mentality. Like if they're obviously, and write it, create a paper trail. If they're, did something wrong, note it. I'm sorry. Like we're all adults, right? We have to stop.
Danielle, you see that culture in law enforcement. They screw up over here, and instead of removing their license, well, guess what? Now he's working for the sheriff. He goes over there and screws over. Instead of removing their license here because he committed whatever, he's working for some other entity. What happened to the guy? He beat up so and so. Oh yeah. Oh, it's okay. Da, 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 da. Boom. And you see him at the school district. You mean to tell me this person that has a violent history is now working at the school district?
Mm-hmm. And so let me ask you, because I know we've had this conversation before, right? Like, but do you think that maybe, the community has created this system, like ourselves, we've created this system of kind of being complacent, right? Because there's really no community involvement. Like, do you think maybe that's why Laredo has operated in that way for so long?
Let me tell you, yeah, and I know where you're trying to get, community involvement. If a parent goes to us, I'm gonna tell you this. This is what happens, and I get a lot of people, and throughout the schools, the kid gets bullied. They call me, "How can you teach? Can you teach my son, my daughter is being bullied? Blah blah. What do we do?" You tell them to do a paper trail. They usually call the teacher and tell them off. I already won. The kid happens again. They call the teacher and they tell her off. So a teacher makes an email to the principal and says, this parent is very aggressive, this very, blah, 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 but in actuality, that parent is concerned about what's happening with their kid. Didn't tell them off, but maybe just raised the voice a little bit. So now that the parent, something happens to the kid the next year, goes and says, I've been talking about bullying for the last 2 years. They know about it. And the principal looks at the thing, yeah, but you're very aggressive and you're very this and you're very that. And so all of a sudden they label you. So all of a sudden that parent goes in front of the board and tells them, this is going on with my child. This is going on to you. And the board says, oh, he's a very aggressive parent. He's very aggressive. Look at him. He's taking pictures of me from over there. I don't know why I should be here. Why are you doing that? That's a terroristic threat. They come up with they label and they profile people left and right. And then they retaliate, not on the parent, on the child.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. And you hear those stories over and over and over. And it's not so you don't have those people. The parents aren't going up there because they're afraid that the school district is going to retaliate on the kid. And guess what? They retaliate on the kid. All of a sudden, the kid has a vape pen. And the kid doesn't smoke. And all of a sudden, he's being arrested for vape. I'm done. You see that right there? That's the badge. I'm the good cop. Protect the blue. No, you just violated that kid's rights. And guess what? Now the kid's going to juvenile. Now the kid is in because that's the way they retaliate. And it's
Mhm.
fortunate we have to get away from that stuff. So the reason people don't go and talk and approach the board is because they're afraid of the retaliation against their kids.
Yeah, which is understandable.
That that's the bottom line.
Hmm.
And it's sad. And
Yeah,
it's sad.
yeah,
And just like the cops being played musical chairs every time they screw up, instead of getting their licenses pulled, a lot of them end up where? In the school district police departments. It's unfortunate. And
hmm,
and so now you have bad cops with bad cops. And so there has to be a whole fix. But like you said, the culture is this. We have to start stripping away departments. If I'm spending, I'm just going to say a number, 20 something million a year on the police department. Okay. And I can get a contract with secure armed security taking care of the schools for 11 million. Well, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to have a contract with a security company professionally and taking care of our kids on a professional note than having individuals of that nature.
yeah. I mean, I'll have to disagree with you on that one, just because I don't know if you were familiar with the recent, with what happened. I had just come on the board, but there was a security company too that the district had been contracting for many years, and turns out that, they had people employed that were not even certified to be security guards. And so, I mean, I think that, do we need a police department, the district? Yes, we do, especially with all the mass shootings that are happening. Do I think that maybe there needs to be more training, maybe more education, maybe a little bit of more oversight on that department? Yes, I do. But to completely dismantle, I mean, I would
I'm gonna,
disagree just because of what I've seen now.
I'm gonna interject. And dismantling does not mean lack of security. That's just removing the department. So I'm the first one that's going to say that because of what I've seen and how they've acted and how they behave. Now, um, the shooting, the kid that came out on the internet, and I guess Alexander, and everybody went in there. I mean, I'm going to be facetious. You even had Space Force was down here, and they had everybody there. They had the police
They have
chief
CPS. Hmm.
from another district was here, and guess where they found that guy over there in the other school district riding around another school. Anyway, we need better coverage. Uh, do we have good police officers on the force? Yes. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, the good ones are being slammed because of the bad ones. And people can say, Paul, you're full of shit. Excuse my language. Yeah, but I can say the same way. The problem that I have is we need trained security and professional companies. I bet you if you look at that contract, it was probably cronyism, and they gave it to somebody that was associated with somebody. And of course, that's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And if you look in detail with the contract, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. I'll bet money that's going to happen. I'm not a betting man, So we have problems. We have problems all over. How are we going to do? How are we going to cut this? I don't know. I mean, but I know this for the parents out there that are listening to this, your opinion votes people in,
Hmm.
and you all start paying attention on who you vote in for the trustees. If
Hmm.
we can do that, because the trustees that we have right now, they're good people, but we need term limits, and the only that needs legislative action, and maybe
Hmm.
that's where we should go. Maybe it'll be a lot better for somebody that comes inside and sticks it in for 4 years, and then somebody else comes in there with a different idea. I don't know. Do I have the solutions? No, but we see all the problems. I can give ideas, but everybody has to come together in a think tank and basically what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because as you say here, the manipulation of numbers for projections that didn't exist, that right there is bad business. And if this is still being played, we have bad actors, and it's not you all; it's the administration that's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I want to say it's like it's both, because at the end of the day, like administration can present something, but it's the board's responsibility, right, to ensure that what is being done in good faith of the school district, right? Now, I'm not saying I love the finance team. I have a good communication and relationship with the finance team. They always answer my questions. I'm one who's always asking, like, well, why is this? Why that? Right? Um, but it's both. I think it's just been an issue that in years past, if you look at the board meetings would last about 30 minutes, at the most. And it just becomes a system, like I said, right? Like a system of just like a rubber stamp, like, okay, approve, with no questioning. And, we do have good board members. We do, all of us, each and every single one of us. We are having a difficult time with all of this. It's nobody wants to let go of anybody. Nobody wants to close down schools. And, my thing is if it makes sense, and I've told him in emails, make it make sense to me. Like, make it make sense, because right now it does not make sense at all. And, I think that, it's just that, like you said, we do need term limits. We need term limits because you get complacent, right? You get comfortable, and it's just at the end of the day, like, look at now who's paying the price. It's the taxpayers, it's the employees. Like, employees have a lot of fear and anxiety, like, do I still have a job, and yeah, so parents do have options, at the end of the day, the parent can take their child to wherever it is that they want to go. I know, just from my personal experience, my child was at private school, but I did bring him over to the public education system because of the opportunities that the public education system does offer. Like, for example, the special education department, right? Extracurricular activities, which I do know that a lot of the private schools do offer that as well. But again, the public education system, I am a product of public education. I think UISD is doing a really good job. But at the end of the day, right, we have to build that trust again, which is something that you said. We have to really dive into, why are our parents leaving? Like, what is it? Why are they leaving? And trying to figure out a way to bring them back. And that way is just building the trust, like you said, building the trust, training. I do get a lot of the calls of customer service. Where you have to sometimes, like, you call one person and then they send you to another. That's happened to me as well. When I've made calls, and I really don't say, when I call, I don't like to say, oh, this is board member Martinez. Like, I usually just call, and, when they ask me later, like, oh, Miss Martinez, yes, it's me. But I have been transferred, from place to place. But I do think we need to build that. I think it's very important. This is a very big wake up call for the community to see, and we also need to ask ourselves, right? Like, what opportunities will remain open for our community and for our students who attend the schools who are being considered to consolidate? Like, what opportunities remain open for them? Because we know that once we close them, we are going to do a disservice to that community. Now, another thing, that a wake up call for the community is, what does this mean for civic engagement in our community moving forward, right? Like, what does it mean? Because we should have been having this conversation years ago. You
But
look at trust and ISD.
like I tell you, the trust of UISD, and I'm glad that you acknowledge it, is not even in zero. It's in the negatives. You have to build it to zero. Zero is neither positive nor negative. It's just a number that it's just there, right? And right now the constituents aren't there. They're at a negative. They're in an anger space. They're in a place that they don't trust. That's negative, and they have to bring it forward. How? It's not going to be through photo ops. Not going to be through photo ops. It's going to be through the trust of engagement or how things are being done. And it's not going to be because of graduations. And our graduations are lowering. Okay, they're diminishing. So we have, and yes, we have a great educational department. Yes, I'm nothing against that. We have some excellent teachers there, and some of those teachers are not getting paid what they should. And but so, and they look at the assistant to the assistant secretaries that are out there, and they're getting paid higher than them. So what do they say? Look at what's going on. But the lack of engagement of the community, as you say, is the fact that the lack of trust was lost long ago.
Yeah, and I think the community
the lack of trust was lost probably in 2010 to the back.
Yeah.
And
I think now, like I've said, like this is a huge wake up call, even for me, like as a parent, like I wish I would have been involved sooner, right? Because I didn't know like everything that was happening. So I think this is a big wake up call for us parents to really become engaged. If you have your child in public education, become engaged, learn about the policies, learn about the budget procedures, right? Because it's our responsibility as taxpayers to hold those people in office accountable. Okay, it's our responsibility. Like, and I understand that there might be a fear, because I even felt that fear too when I would go, to the meetings and give my public comment. But at the end of the day, like I can tell you that I'm seeing changes happening little by little. Like I said, I've been looking at the board meetings from before to now, and I can see that now there is a little bit of more dialogue. There is a little bit of more transparency in the way that things are presented. Do we need more? Definitely, yes, compared to other school districts. Like Judson ISD was having these conversations about 2 years ago. They even had a community of stakeholders, parents, business owners, who were involved in making the decisions as to what schools should close. Did our school district have that? No, they didn't. So
because
that's red flag number one. Red flag number one there, right? And so you go back to the same thing. How do you want the public to trust us when we don't even let them be involved in these conversations? So one of the things that I am asking for is that, do I understand that schools need to be closed? Yes, I understand it. At some point, we will have to, at some point, because the enrollment is not there. I see that.
we have to look at something here, and people need to understand. We have a lot of we have a lot of businesses that closed down in Laredo from 2000 to the present. So a lot of small businesses are no longer open. A lot of import export companies are moving to San Antonio, to the Valley. That's the thing. We lost the number one port to number three. So the city of Laredo really never went out on the limb to bring in businesses and to bring in that. It never happened. So what occurs is this: those families aren't coming in. The only families that you get people coming in are maybe federal guys for Border Patrol and for ICE and maybe TSA, and most of those guys, that are coming in, they're single. They're not married. Okay, so they're not going to get married here. They're gonna spend their 4 years, 5 years, whatever tenure that they have to work. They're gonna get transferred else. They're probably gonna go back home and get married back home or elsewhere. They're not gonna stay here. Most of them don't stay. So Laredo's in a very awkward position, and our leaders of Laredo have they don't figure it out, but they blame the people that say, hey, what's going on here? How come this is not happening? Oh, that's a troublemaker. Don't hang
Yeah.
around. Don't look for that person because that person, and that's what we get. So if you go to the board meeting over there and you tell people, hey, this is going on, I don't like to see what it is, what's happening here, they're going to all of a sudden, oh, he's a disgruntled parent, he's a disgruntled employee, he's a person that doesn't need da 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 da. His kid is a crybaby, and all of a sudden, guess what? Who's going to be they're going to take it out on who? The kid. And they said, no, it doesn't happen. It happens. It happens when I was a kid, so I know it happens. Okay,
Yeah.
so don't tell me. I experienced that. Okay, in United. Okay, and it was just the way it is. So I said to myself, maybe it's changed. Nothing's changed. The only things that changed was the teachers that were there in United when I was a kid. Their kids are right now teachers at United Independent School District schools, and their kids are still teachers, and because that's the only thing that they can go. Most people are going to become teachers or educators, and God bless them. Nothing against them, but it's that cronyism that we have. That I wouldn't say misappropriation, that mismanagement of taxpayer money,
Yeah.
that lying of the numbers, and it wasn't there. The lying of a bond that we, the community, entrusted ourselves in approving on a lie. Do you think UISD is they're gonna say, oh, great job? No, the problem is they lost trust. Now,
Yeah.
how are you all going to gain trust? Because having a tailgate party ain't going to happen.
No, it's not. And having a
You
conversation
see?
either. And it's like I've said, unfortunately, like these are decisions of the past that now we're having to pay the price. And it's like, I've told the superintendent too, like I do have to applaud him in what he's trying to do because he did inherit a huge problem, right? He did really inherit a huge problem. And so now he is, trying to do his best, right, with what he has. But Mr. Rudy Gonzalez too, like him and I are just both newly elected on this board. So I think it's just, I've always said it, like, and now more so that I'm really diving into it, is decisions of the past are now affecting us, right? And so these are just really like fundamental shifts that are taking place in our community. I think, like you said, what you raised about our law enforcement coming into the city. Yes, you're very right on that. But we also have our medical professionals. So Dr. Tyler King, which is a city council member for District 6 in the area that I live in, he actually just posted a story about, how he was matched here in Laredo Medical Center, and decided to make this his hometown, right? So what are our leaders doing, right? Like you said, our leaders, we have to come together. School districts with city and Webb County, what are we doing to make sure that people are coming and staying and rooting grounds? What are we doing? And I think, again, this is just a huge wake up call because a school closure doesn't only affect the school district, it affects everybody else. There
Yes,
are, I know that.
I'm in agreement with you. And you know, it's a shame that it's gotten to this point. But like you said, it happened before. You all inherited this, and
And it's
I'm
like,
like,
now what are we going to do? Right? Like, now what are we going to do? And so I think that it's just that, we need to have, we need to
and I would
have,
say, and I say this, and I'll say it again: the board needs to take away their ego cap and call the state and say, "We need help. Please come over and help us."
yeah.
That's what needs to happen. You have to bring in somebody that can help. I mean, if you're a doctor and you say, "Man, you know what? I think we need a second opinion." You know what? I'm going to send you to this specialist for the second opinion. If you're a lawyer and say, "Oh my God, you know what? Let me get somebody else to help on this case because it's hard." So we need to do that. We need to do the same thing,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have to hire somebody from the outside. And this time and you can't hire anybody from the outside. You have to bring in the state and say, you know what, let's get it going for the benefit of our kids. I think that's the best option that we have, because what I'm seeing here is going to be this same concern. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. It's going to happen next year.
Yeah.
Let's say you close 2 right now. Next year, it's going to be, gee, wow, we're going to have to close 5 more. Que la fregada, que what did we do wrong? Y blah, 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 blah. And that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be that spiral downward. And you're still going to have the assistants to the assistant secretaries running around, and the directors and the assistant directors, and God forbid how many other titles you guys have, And
Yeah. And
you,
I think
you,
I think with that, like with the conversation that I had with our state representative, Richard Raymond, right now the situation in which we're in, right, is that yes, the commissioner right now is just like looking, right, like what districts can I take over for whatever reason it might be, right. Like I said, taxpayer me, I would say definitely take over it, right. But then now looking at the bigger picture of everything else and having that conversation, is that really truly worth it for our kids? It's something that, we won't know unless it happens. But I can tell you that, you know, um, right now, the way we saw it with the voucher program, instead of there being more funding for our public education system, that's kind of been ripped away because now we have the voucher program coming in, which I don't really think it's going to affect our city as much as the larger cities, because the larger cities do have a lot of more private school options and whatnot. Is the district going to lose out? Yes, it is. I think there's about 800 to 900 students who have, I believe, applied or who are, leaving because of that. I want to say LMT did the article on that. And, but I think we just have to, this is a huge wake up call, right? A huge wake up call. Another thing that I also, I have a pending conversation with our Congressman Henry Cuellar, but also looking into, okay, if we close these schools, have we taken into consideration how much of Title One funding do these schools received, right? And if we close these schools, then what happens to those Title One fundings? Are we gonna lose out? So those are also things which why I'm also completely against this plan, because all of that has not been presented to the board. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Buitron, like everything that's been presented to the board has been because I've been asking for this information. And I'm so blessed and thankful that I've had other board members who have really also shared that same sentiment and who have really supported me, and hey, let's come together and let's have these agenda action items to make administration give us these details, but this should have been presented to us a long time ago, right? So,
and that's what I come here, and I'm not one, because people are going to say, "Oh, Paul, you just want to fire this person, you want to fire that person, you want to fire this, you want to dismantle that." No, it's not that. If it's bad, we have to change it. And one way, get rid of it. Period. That's, you want to move forward. Let's get rid of it and start building from scratch and put something else new inside, regardless what it is. If the person is not fulfilling for their job, then you replace it. That's what. And employees get hired and they get fired as well. And that's why contracts need to be that way. They just fired. They were firing one, and he got the past superintendent for whatever
for
allegation.
whatever reason,
You know what I'm saying. So imagine the trust was already lost, and so we hired a new one that comes inside. He inherited past issues, and now they come to fruition. They don't know what to do. I can't fire that one. I can't do this one. I can't get rid of that one because this was the friend of that one, and this one's the cousin of that one, and that one holds the political sign for that one. And You see the dilemma that we're in?
Yeah.
And we're going to be in the same dilemma a year from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now. And this cycle is just going to get worse because you mentioned this. Laredo needs a wake up call because all these little wake up calls of issues happening is not only happening with the school district, it's happening with issues in the city. It's happening with issues with the way our small business, the way our small businesses are being taken care of. If you want construction, there's a lot of issues. Why? Because of that culture that we have, and that culture of we need to keep that guy in there because whatever reason, or that person
He's
in there.
friend of the friend of the friend. It's the whole you scratch my back, I'll scratch
You know
yours,
what I'm
right?
saying? And I'm like, if you wanted some of these and they were pilots, I wouldn't get on the plane. If you
Yeah,
knew
no. Yeah, and I know I've heard
that.
like from community is that, like it's the same people who got us into this mess that now are trying to get us out of this mess, right? Like that's what I've heard from community. And I'm like, I mean, to some certain extent, yeah, they are right, right? And so
It's the truth.
yeah, it's sadly it's the truth, and I think that, going back to the school consolidations, I too, like I've been told, like you're being too emotional, and it's like it's not about emotion, like it's about being strategic, right? Like, is this the smartest strategic move that we have? And to be honest, like we have not been given with the information, right? I mean, till this day, like I don't even know. Um, I'll tell you something funny is that, there the first plan stated that Matias de Llano and the other schools that were going to be consolidated was because of utility cost and capacity, right? But the presentation that they presented, Matias Llano, showed that they were at a utilization of 66%. When you visit the campus, that campus being used at 100%. So when I asked the question of, okay, is that 66%, are you considering portables? Well, yeah, okay, then you see, like, why are you not telling me like that you're considering portables? Because
Let me tell you this. And that company who did that presentation is who hired that company?
the district administration hired the district, yeah. So I mean,
It's
yeah,
the
they
same
can.
people.
It's
The
like that
same people that
saying.
got us into that are the same people that are trying to get us out of it.
It's
No,
like
sorry.
they're saying you don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? Like you're not gonna bite the hand that feeds you. So I mean, it is what it is, right? But I think that now, the community does need to come together, ask questions, demand answers. Like at the end of the day, you're a taxpayer, and your taxpayer dollars matter, whether you have children in the school district or not.
And this is my kids are already aged out, but here's they went both parochial and they went to Catholic school. I mean to public school as well. And if it's unfortunate that the lack of trust of United is the way it is now. It's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate that United got himself into this hole. They dug themselves into this hole for whatever reason. But the same people that are there, administration, have been there for a very long time, except the superintendent. He just
Mm-hmm.
came in a year ago, more or less. And you see the same mistakes over and over and over, and the same bloviating, and the same intimidation factors of certain individuals in administration that should have been fired 20 years ago are still there now. And they're causing havoc after havoc because of, guess what? I hold your political sign. And Laredo's trust has already expelled. It's no longer, it's not there. So I don't know how how UISD is going to bring back trust. And unless it's the glee club and the cheerleading moms and everybody else, that they're the only ones that are going to be trusting, oh, they do a great job. And besides that, they've lost it with a community in the sense of the taxpayers. As a taxpayer, I tell this to people. Elections are coming up for the board of UISD. Vote out any and all incumbents. Doesn't matter who it is. Vote them out, put somebody else in there. If it's Mickey Mouse and an incumbent, vote for Mickey Mouse. And if it's that's the only way we can bring in change. And until people start understanding that, then things are going to change, because people go in there with a good attitude like you, and some of them just get up there and all of a sudden the big old ego cap comes in, and I'm glad you're not wearing it. And that needs to be addressed. And people can call me names if they want to me. I could care less. I'm like, please, and get in line. But we have a problem with UISD. The problem's already up overboard. I mean,
It's already, yeah, it's a big infection. Yeah.
The Titanic is sinking, and everybody's, we can still put that screw there to stop that in there. Look, water sealer,
Yes,
and
yeah.
no, ya caminó. I mean, bring in the state, let them take care of business.
And I think the only way that we'll be able to build trust is however we decide in the next month, right, in regards to this consolidation of schools. Another issue that's on the chopping block too is reduction of contract days, reduction of stipends. So I really think that the way in which we handle this situation, that's going to help build trust again. One of the things that I have told one of my fellow board members, has been, I'm not going to go down as the board member who didn't fight for the school in their district and for all the other schools. That's not going to be my legacy. And if I'm only going to be the only one board member who votes no for this, then that'll be me. And, like, I'll be able to go home and sleep at night knowing that I make a sound decision, because this has been very rushed. We don't even know, like I said, like the Title I funding, we don't even know. Just last week, I had requested an attendance revenue report. That should have been given to us when all of these, propositions were being made. And Matias de Llano does incur a big chunk of that attendance revenue compared to other schools. So, that's another thing why all of this should have been given with more time. Again, do I think they need to close at some point? Yes, but school closures should be the last option. We first need to look into the right sizing of the departments. Do we need to sell property? Do we have property that we can sell to help us? I mean, it's ludicrous to me, Mr. Buitron, how does, and I laugh because you go back to it, like who in their right mind, just last year we wanted, there was an agenda action item for land to be purchased for, I don't even remember what it was for. And I'm just like, why do you want to purchase land? Like, look at what the situation that we're in, right? So, and again, and I was the only board member who was like vocal about that, right? And then fast forward to now, like everything was pretty in pink last semester, no issues. I kept asking month after month, hey, like we're spending too much. I kept saying we're spending too much, we're spending too much. I was the crazy one, right? I'm the one who, how dare you even question why we should give a 2% raise to the higher ups.
And if somebody goes to the board and say, "Why are you doing that?" He just grunted, "Please, security, please get him out," because he was looking at me funny and he was talking. I go, "Really?" I mean, I saw one time. I can't remember who put it up there. I can't remember who it was. Look at him. He's looking at me. He's aggressive. And all of a sudden, the police officers came over there. The bully in blue.
And again, you have to remember also, and again, this is just my personal opinion perspective, but because I do have friends who are lobbyists in Washington who lobby for education, and you also have to remember that decisions that are made administratively are also very influenced by the majority vote of the board. Okay, so that's something that you also have to take into
Of course,
consideration.
of
Yes,
course. If the board goes this way, the administration is going to follow
yes,
through.
and
Of course.
another comment that I've received is, like, we'll fire the superintendent and this and that, and it's not really his fault. Again, it's the majority vote of the board. Like, the superintendent can make his recommendation, but at the end of the day, it's the majority vote of the board that will decide ultimately in which direction the school district is going to, right? So
And,
again,
and, and let me put it to you this way, Dianelle, because we're running out of time. We say Laredo, and how do we bring people in and bring in jobs and and they find out we're having issues with a school to prison pipeline district. We have issues with the board. Now they're going to close schools. Do you think people want to move down? Do you think
exactly,
people want to move down?
exactly. No, they don't, and that's exactly.
All these developers right now that are building houses and bringing more developments, they expect to say, you can walk to this new school over here. So all of a sudden, they hold signs for elected officials. We need a school over here in this district over here. Well, wait a minute, we have a school just blocks away over here. Yeah, but we really need one here because my development's going to be in that area.
Yeah,
And that's what happens. You see,
yeah.
that's what happens. And guess what happens
Sadly,
now? We have
that's what
another school.
happened. Yeah,
And that now we
sadly,
have
that's what
another
happened.
school, and let's manipulate the numbers. We're going to have a projection of 40 something thousand that are going to be moving in by whatever, and we're going to, and all of a sudden, yeah, but we only have 35, 36. Where are you getting that number? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It is a projection in most cities, most cities that are on a positive roll forward. Positive, what I mean by manufacturing jobs and everything else, and jobs in general, and growth. That in 10 years, they're going to double in size. Okay. Our next size city is Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
We have far more stuff, more so in positively growth than Laredo does. Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens? Yeah, people come back here, but most people are here as a transit. Some people, might stay, and yes, we have a lot of doctors that came down here, and I can mention a lot of names of doctors come down here, and they make this their home. But you have a lot of Laredoans and end up coming back because they want to be near home, near their parents, near their friends, near their colleagues or what have you that they grew up with. I did. I was in Dallas. I moved back here. I didn't know my neighbors. I moved back here, and guess what? I had a young daughter at the time. She was 2 years old, 3 years old. I said I wanted to go to school and meet my cousins, my friends, and stuff like that. Learn what family's about. So I moved back for that reason. A lot of people do so, but what occurs is now there's no jobs. There's no manufacturing jobs. I mean, we have a lot of our kids are already in the penal in the penal department because of the juvenile, and then now they're 17 years old. Now they went to Webb County, and they're still seniors in high school, and we have that issue. And they might say, "Oh, they're bad kids, dead parents, the deadbeat father." Because that's the tone that I hear. That's the tone that I hear from principals, counselors, police, from UISD. And it's not so that way, right? Because they were raised by a single mom. And now you have a kid that's in the penal code, the penal system, in and out of jail. I mean, is that what we want?
Yeah, no, that's not what we want at all. But
A lot of our kids are going off into the Marines, into the Army, into the Navy. Beautiful. They're doing their service. They're not coming back because we don't have the jobs. So when we look into that, but yet we're building neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, it's basically the recyclement of the old neighborhoods. The kids no longer live with the father or the mother at their house. They go buy another one, but it's the same ones moving over from the south. They say, "Oh, the barrios of the south, they're in the north now because everybody bought homes here." A lot of the guys from Hillside, a lot of the guys that were in Hillside, or they live in the South. And the new places, their parents still live here. They're over there. You know what I'm saying? Or even
Yes.
and they sold the house. It's a conundrum that we're in. It's
Yes.
a terrible situation that we're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I pray for the kids and for those that are going through a nervous breakdown because they're going to be bust and their school is closing. It's not my idea of fun because of that. But this situation was something that was here before. They ignored it, and I'm not saying the board. I blame administration because the board, they say, "Oh, we're fine here. It's fine. It's in this paper right here. The paper right here that I have, it says that we can do it. Everybody votes, like you used to say. Now you question it. They're like, oh, here's that crazy one over here who's going to question if there's the validity of this. Well, let's check it out. I'm going to send it to go get studied, and we're going to approve this company that we pay to say what we want them to say. Come on, please. Those pull out the
That's the
rabbit out of the
system.
hat trick already left a long time ago. I mean, I'm sorry. You have your work cut out for you. God
Yes.
bless you. You have to bring back. You have to bring back the trust because the trust of
Yes.
the ISD is no longer there.
That's a very big responsibility, but I can tell you that as far as my district goes, District 7, like the feedback that I've received from my constituents has been nothing but supportive. I've been very transparent or try to be as much as I can. I think that that was one of my promises to my constituents, and I'm going to be keeping it. I'm not here to be friends with anybody. I'm not here to please anyone. I'm here to make sure that the work gets done the way it's supposed to ensure that both the well-being of the school district as well as the community taxpayers, there's a good interest for that. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Like I said,
Thank you for
this
listening.
is this is a very big wake up call, even for me now. People I know, like I said, there's that fear of being involved, but really ask questions and maybe not even so like go to the board meetings, but email your board members, email your representatives. This decision that we're about to make is going to make a huge impact, like I said, at a city level and county level as well, because
For
you
me,
said it
we're gonna do.
perfectly. You said it perfectly. Do we want to be that community that is known for closing schools? I honestly do not. I want to hopefully, see how we can at least wait a year and really take the time to do it right. That's what
Let me
we
put
need
it
to
to this
focus on.
Let me put it to this way: seeing the pattern of how UISD is. Let's say you all close one now or two schools now. I guarantee you next year you're going to want to close two more, and the year after that it's going to be this one. And guess what? This is happening because all this, and and the jobs and the assistants to the assistants are going to get longer. Those lists, and it's
Mhm.
unfortunate. Um, I pray for the teachers that have to go through this, for the kids that are in there. Um, the bad, the good cops. We back up good cops, but not
Yes,
because, but the
definitely.
bad ones need to go. And when
Yeah.
you have, and it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. We're
Hmm.
running out of time. I want to thank you for reaching out, and for you folks out there, it's a sad case that UISD is in. And the only way to get rid of that cancerous growth is to call the school board and call the
And call
state,
their state representatives,
and call the
call their
state.
state representatives, their federal representatives who, I know, like I said, State Rep Richard Raymond was very, very welcoming to meeting with me and to constituents. And so really, I mean, they're here at the end of the day as the board members to serve our community and hear our community out. And if the community is opposing of school closures, then we all need to come together and see what can we do to make sure that our community is being taken care of.
Absolutely. So like, again, reach out to the state, reach out, see how we can fix this. And if there's a department inside the state that can come out here and fix it, I would suggest you all do that and do that fast before we have another presentation of some more manipulations, because that's basically what it looks like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
doing it. Folks out there, we'll leave you with this. You all be safe, stay at peace, and God bless you all. Till next time, much peace.
Thank you.
Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.